Hey guys! Today we'll be covering a 2021 drama film called Intolerance. The opening scene takes place on the ocean, where a sailor named Mitsuru and his assistant Noji are extracting seafood to sell in the city. Mitsuru appears to have a bad temper and a cold personality. After a while, we are introduced to his daughter Kanan, who is tasked with making ribbon roses at her school. Kanan's parents are divorced, and she lives with her father. Despite this, she frequently visits her mother, who is pregnant with her current husband's baby. One evening, Kanan is having dinner with her father when she decides to talk to him about her school. However, Mitsuru is always in a bad mood, and as a result, Kanan refrains from sharing anything. Just then, Mitsuru discovers that his ex-wife has given Kanan a cell phone, so he seizes it and throws it out the window. After dinner, Kanan goes out to retrieve her cell phone, which, despite being cracked, appears to be functional. The next day, Kanan is at the supermarket skimming through different cosmetics. Just then, the supermarket's manager, Naoto, notices her and takes her inside a room. A few moments later, Kanan flees the supermarket and Naoto pursues her. After a long chase, Kanan is about to cross the road, but unfortunately, she is hit by a car, causing her head to bleed. After witnessing this, Naoto tries to approach her, but at that very moment, a large truck drags her away, resulting in her brutal death. Later, Mitsuru arrives at the hospital and cries out loud after seeing his daughter's body. After a while, Kanan's pregnant mother Shoko also arrives, but Mitsuru prevents her from seeing their daughter's body, as her head is badly crushed. Hearing this, Shoko starts breathing heavily and quickly passes out. Meanwhile, the police are questioning the car driver, Nakayama, as well as the truck driver. Nakayama appears to be in shock after going through the traumatic accident. Later, Mitsuru and a few other relatives attend Kanan's funeral. A few moments later, Mitsuru learns that Naoto has arrived and confronts him. Naoto expresses regret for the loss, but he also claims that Kanan has been shoplifting cosmetic products for a long time. When Mitsuru hears this, he gets enraged and demands proof because Kanan did not wear makeup. However, Naoto remains silent because he lacks evidence to back up his claim. Following the incident, people begin to write negative things about Kanan and her parents. The next day, Mitsuru goes to Kanan's school and claims that his daughter's classmates always bullied her. However, the class teacher, Miss Amai, asserts that there are no bullies at their school. Mitsuru believes that Kanan was forced to shoplift, so before leaving, he asks that Amai prepare a list of students' names who wear makeup. Later, Amai approaches the principal and suggests that they have a word with Kanan's classmates, but the latter refuses, claiming that if they discover the bullies, their school's reputation might be harmed. Later, some news reporters arrive at Mitsuri's house in order to interview him, but Mitsuri is extremely disturbed. When the reporters keep ringing the doorbell, Mitsuri comes out and yells at them. Despite this, they question him about Kanan being a shoplifter, causing him to become even more enraged. He almost starts a fight, but fortunately, Noji somehow manages to take him inside. He then suggests they return to work, but Mitsuri claims that he doesn't want to work anymore. When Noji tries to persuade him further, Mitsuri chases him away. Elsewhere, Naoto is with his grandmother, who encourages him to face the TV interviews because people only get the message when it is properly transmitted. At home, Shoko visits Mitsuru and starts talking about their deceased daughter. She asserts that Kanan did actually have a habit of shoplifting cosmetics from the supermarket. In particular, she liked to steal nail polish. Mitsuru immediately denies the claims, as he has never seen his daughter wearing nail polish. This angers Shoko, and she shouts at him, mentioning that Kanan always wore nail polish, but Mitsuru was too busy to notice it. She also accuses him of being cold and not allowing Kanan to share her likes and dislikes. However, Mitsuru is unwilling to accept the truth and asks her to leave. A couple of weeks later, Nakayama and her mother arrive outside Mitsuru's house and apologize for his loss, but he rudely tells them to get out of his way. Following this, he goes to school and checks the written statements of Kanan's classmates, but doesn't find anyone who was close to Kanan. It's because Kanan was an introvert who preferred to sit alone. Unable to find any useful information, Mitsuru prepares to leave, but just then, the principal reveals that there was a student whose sister was molested by the supermarket manager. When Mitsuru hears this, he asks if he can meet the student or her sister, but the principal says no. Meanwhile, Naoto is being questioned by the press about his reactions to the incident. He mentions that there is nothing wrong with chasing a shoplifter, but in this case, he believes it was his fault and apologizes to the bereaved family. However, the press publishes the news, emphasizing only Naoto's negative words, instilling even more hatred in Mitsuru's heart. The following day, Mitsuru goes to the supermarket and begins stealing cosmetic products. When Naoto notices this, he tries to stop him, but Mitsuru tells him to react exactly as he did with Kanan. Naoto threatens to call the cops on him, but Mitsuru counter-questions him about why he didn't call the cops on Kanan that day. Mitsuru then accuses him of having ulterior motives. Before leaving, he is approached by a news reporter, but he declines to share anything with them. He tells the reporter to get away, but just then, the reporter trips and falls. As a result, the press edits the video footage to show Mitsuru pushing the reporter. In addition, the press also publishes an interview with an anonymous person in a suit who discusses Mitsuru's bad temper. However, Mitsuru has no idea who the anonymous person is because he has never met anyone in a suit. The next day, Mitsuru goes sailing, and Nogi appears to be working for another sailor named Tanabe. Tanabe asks Mitsuru if he wants Nogi back, to which he replies he's fine working alone. However, working alone does not benefit him because he is unable to extract much seafood and instead injures himself. In the evening, Mitsuru approaches Naoto in the restaurant. He inquires about the previous incident in which a girl was molested in the supermarket, but Naoto pretends to be unaware. The following day, Mitsuru stands outside the supermarket, and this time, Ms. Kusakabe, an elderly supermarket employee, becomes angry, prompting her to confront Mitsuru. She asserts Naoto's innocence and advises him not to make false accusations. Mitsuru responds that he simply wants to know the truth and forbids her from interfering in their affairs. This causes a heated argument between the two, but before things can escalate, Naoto manages to take Ms. Kusakabe inside. Later, Naoto is dining with his staff, and they discuss their declining business. Mrs. Kusakabe encourages him not to let his father's supermarket fail, and also mentions that she is confident that the previous regular customers will return. During their conversation, Naoto discusses his father's death. He reveals that his father called him several times before his death, but he didn't answer because he was gambling. He owed money to his father and feared that answering the phone would make things difficult for him. Furthermore, he claims to have won a large sum of money that day, but he also lost his father. After hearing this, Ms. Kusakabe inspires everyone to formulate a strategy so that they can grow the supermarket business. They then announce a super sale to entice customers to visit their supermarket. Meanwhile, Mitsuru returns home from work and notices Nakayama standing outside his door. She apologizes to him once more, but he ignores her and goes inside. Following this, he goes through Kanan's photo albums and notices that she has scribbled her face with a black marker. He then calls Shoko and asks if she knows anything about it, but the latter begins lecturing him, prompting him to hang up the phone. Later that night, Mitsuru approaches Naoto as he is about to return home from work. When Mitsuru questions him about the truth, Naoto takes him to the place where the accident took place. He then starts explaining the entire incident, and in the process, he is almost hit by a truck. Fortunately, Mitsuru saves him in the nick of time and mentions that if he wants to die, he should do it alone without bothering anyone. In the next scene, Naoto returns home devastated and tries taking his own life. However, Ms. Kusakabe arrives and prevents him from doing so. Naoto expresses his traumatizing situation and declares that he no longer wishes to live. However, the wise lady explains to him that if he does so, he will be perceived as guilty. Elsewhere, Mitsuru receives a phone call informing him of Nakayama's suicide. Taken aback, he immediately heads to her funeral. There, he is approached by Nakayama's mother, who instead of being angry, apologizes to him, claiming that it is her fault for raising such a dim-witted daughter. She also asks him to forgive her daughter, citing her cheerful and kind nature. Her apology and pain touches his heart, but he remains silent. Following this, he returns home and starts examining his daughter's belongings. After a bit of investigation, he discovers several cosmetic items hidden inside a teddy bear, indicating that Kanan did indeed shoplift. The following morning, Noji arrives at Mitsuru's house and asks for a second chance to work on his boat. He also claims that working alone is scary because one day his father went to the sea alone and never returned. Hearing this, Mitsuru agrees to rehire him and invites him inside. There, Noji discovers that Mitsuru has started painting after taking inspiration from his daughter. On being asked, Mitsuru expresses his interest in learning everything about his daughter's hobbies. In the following scene, we see that Naoto has decided to close the supermarket at the end of the month. As a result, he, along with the rest of the staff, are packing up everything. The following day, Mitsuru, Noji, and Shoko are having lunch at a restaurant when Noji asks Shoko if she has thought of any names for her unborn baby. Shoko responds that her husband came up with the name Akane, where Aka means bright and Ne is derived from Kanan. Hearing this, Mitsuru says it sounds like a dog's name and begins to insult her husband. This enrages Shoko, and before leaving, she claims that Konan died as a result of his own cold and egotistic behavior. This devastates Mitsuru, and he apologizes to his ex-wife for the first time. He also admits that he is jealous of her husband. At last, he bursts out into tears and tells her to raise a child with all the happiness. A few months later, Shoko gives birth to a baby girl, while Mitsuru and Noji get back to their work as before. As they walk towards the sea, Mitsuru notices Naoto, who now works as a parking agent. After a while, Mitsuru converses with Naoto, and unlike before, he appears to be a lot more soft and friendly. He no longer accuses him because he recognizes his own fault. Later in the evening, Misamai drops by Mitsuru's place to give him Kanan's paintings. He then looks at his daughter's paintings and discovers that one of them matches his painting, causing him to become emotional.